Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to WCS Challenger. We're going to be moving into our third quarterfinal match here as we go into a Protoss versus Terran. My name is Fear Dragon. I'm joined here by Nathanius.
What's up?
It's going to be Astrea versus MaSa. Now, the funny thing is, while this is North American Challenger, we're going to be heading over to the Korea server because both of our contestants here are actually in Korea right now. They recently just played in the GSL qualifiers. I believe they actually made some pretty decent runs, getting close to qualifying matches and stuff, but not quite able to make it. We're going to see how they do against each other now.
They're trying to get good, Fear Dragon.
Yeah. And
good Korean practicing.
So the first thing that you said to me when we came to the desk was, this is going to be a little bit of a meme fest because both of these players like to play a little bit weird.
Yes. Well, we've seen, we've commentated. Yes. We did a tri-cast with In Control for like that MaSa Neeb finals and Challenger last year. Yeah. And he literally like proxy or cheese almost every single game his way there against Scarlet and against Neeb. So MaSa he's one of those players that just does whatever he feels like in a very deliberate, aggressive way. But also this guy, our first player, is I was saying when we got here before we went on air, I'm like, his builds usually make him look really good or really bad. There's very little in between. Yep. Because he has a very unique play style. He is our red Protoss, and he is Astrea, otherwise known as Max Angel.
And up at the top right-hand corner of the map, we have the blue Terran player from Canada, but currently in Korea. He is MaSa. The one true Maru, as they say in Canada. But yeah, I'm actually totally with you. We already see that MaSa is doing the kind of behind the natural expansion mineral line barracks to make it look like a proxy. I wouldn't be surprised if he took the second gas geyser, but you're kind of saying this about Astrea. He is also one of those guys who does slightly weird things. The way I always think of Astrea's playstyle is that he comes up with really clever and cute builds or ways to play really greedy that work very well versus standard. And the problem is, when he plays versus something like what MaSa oftentimes throws out at people, it's not standard. So suddenly his builds do start to fall apart and they have a lot of those weaknesses exposed. And for that reason, Astrea has really not ever been able to beat MaSa except for the first time they ever played in like 2014. So Astrea's had a really, really hard wall in the form of MaSa. He does scout out the barracks, which is good, but this is an uphill battle for him. He's got to be able to adjust his playstyle and maybe be able to just play a little bit more normal and clean against MaSa.
Yeah, that's the key to success. I agree with you. And for a lot of our NA players, usually these games get scrappy and we see the guys that handle the scrappiness the best move on. But we already had a nice little change of pace with the last best of 5 that we just had with Future just playing very straightforward, actually, and dominating in a macro game against his Zerg opponent. It was probably one of the cleanest looking NA best of 5s I've ever seen, and I mean that in every possible complimentary way that I can say that is what I mean with it. So if we can get a little bit of that out of Astrea and MaSa, I think we're shaping up for a great day. And honestly, because of that last match, I'm super stoked for Future versus Neeb.
Yeah, I am really, really excited for that one.
If he macros that well against Neeb, like, it's going to be sick.
I actually think it's fully possible for Future to take out Neeb, but we'll talk about that in the later semifinals. As, let's see, we do have the Twilight Council coming on up here. MaSa, he is a player that, while he does really, really enjoy a lot of his memes and early game aggression, short pause over here from Astrea. But I was going to say, MaSa is still a player that, funny enough, he really, really favors a lot of early game aggression. But his late game macro has actually been shown to be pretty good for the most part.
Yeah, it's the build range is certainly something to bring into question. But Astrea, when I think about Astrea's Protoss versus Terran, I think about greed. Yes. I think about lots of charged zealots and a lot of High Templar. Yeah, that's kind of his thing. And we've seen some interesting games even yesterday in our Europe matches from the High Templar-based meme play.
All right, we're getting back into the game. And I'm totally with you there. I think Astrea is definitely one of the earlier Protoss players in North America that we saw going into that sort of low gas style that a lot of Protoss players favor these days with the double upgrades. Yeah, and getting into the really fast High Templar.
He's a Protoss hipster, Fear Dragon.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, This Reaper is going to be kind of annoying. MaSa's got some pretty good micros, so he's going to be able to snipe off a probe over here and get out with the Reaper. Scouts around and saw the gateways and sees just that one stalker. Saw the sentry in the main base, so he knows that there's going to be some hallucinated Phoenix scouts, which, by the way, already hit across the map. And what is he going to see but a normal looking bunker? He's going to see the factory with a tech lab and a cyclone popping out.
And this is...
Tech lab on the starport also gets scouted.
Yeah, this is interesting. Is he, I guess, a quick Raven? No, Banshee?
No.
What?
Did he finish the... Okay, he did finish the cyclone.
This is highly unusual.
We'll see how this goes. MaSa definitely, again, he likes to throw out sort of weird or slightly less ordinary builds.
Do you think he's expecting Astrea to have not built a robotics facility? And he hasn't, by the way, but interesting. I guess he's expecting like a blink play into charge with a bunch of gateways and forges, and he's like, he just won't have observers out early because that's where he cuts?
Yeah, so I mean, I'm so glad you used the word cut specifically, because that is really, really something that Astrea is the kind of player that likes to do. He likes to go for these kind of weird cuts in his build orders and things, and important things get cut out from the build order. So the Robo does get started now. I think he will have an observer just in the nick of time, or maybe like a few seconds late for when the second Banshee arrives.
Yeah, there's no shield batteries in the mineral line, which is what's getting me a little bit. So we'll see what that Banshee can do. Yeah.
Interesting is just going for one Banshee. I mean, I do like the Raven in general, but the investment in Cloak for one Banshee is a little bit different.
No shield battery. If MaSa knew what we knew, he'd go straight for that mineral line because the robotics facility is not even done yet, and there's no shield battery. So he should be able to kill like probably a lot. Actually, he can get a lot of probes. He's gonna get a good amount of probe kills if he commits here. There's like okay, he could have had two there that were low.
Yeah, so you should be expecting that.
There's still no, the observer's only just now coming out. Like, I would sack this Banshee for 6 or 7 more probes.
Yeah, I mean, even lost mine time would be great.
Yeah, no, I would just sit here and just right-click probes because the battery's not done yet. Like, it's so nice. He wants to retain it, which is fine. 9 kills is great, actually. So his build ends up working in a really cool way. We don't see too much Banshee usage against Protoss, but that is one of the weaknesses of Twilight Council openings.
The Stalkers are actually heading out and leaving that Banshee just in the corner because, I mean, ultimately at the end of the day, you do have to just leave maybe a small number of units. And
you can't stay home forever.
Yeah, exactly. You got to eventually move on. But the Reaper comes back in and gets another kill. That's 3 kills. 4 kills on this Reaper. MaSa, you madman. Now the Stalkers are moving across the map, and there is one siege tank on the low ground and another siege tank, I think, on the high ground.
Yeah.
Raven up there as well, and the Marines are all just waiting for those Stalkers.
Yeah, you don't attack into this. It'd be suicide. He could blink onto the tanks. We've seen that type of play before, but ooh, wow, yeah.
Oh, the observer.
He gets up the Raven. He blinked for the Raven and actually took another couple tank shots. He baited him with that Raven.
Yeah, and the Raven not only survives, it's going to get repaired back up, so it's going to be well and healthy, I hope.
Please repair the Raven.
Oh my god, I thought
MaSa's the kind of guy that never repairs his units, by the way, so.
Okay, that Reaper is up to 5 kills, almost gets a 6th. Blink over here to the right-hand side. He is going to find a bunch of supply depots, which is some damage, at least, but the siege tanks can reposition. Marines starting to come forward. The Banshee comes back in. There's no shield battery at the natural because Astrea felt like he had to cut some corners to make a bit of a comeback for how many workers he's lost. This Blink Stalker micro is pretty solid. He's not really losing any Stalkers, and he's trading out versus Bio before Stim.
Yeah, without Stim, despite anything that happens at the start of the game, until you have Stim as Terran, you just can't do anything. So you have to wait, and he's just going to get bullied by these Stalkers until he repositions his siege tanks.
Yep. And they are getting repositioned slowly further forward. The supply depots getting sniped off.
A lot of depots to lose. This really sucks.
It does, but at the same time, I still feel like MaSa's going to feel really good about how this game has gone so far. He's done so much damage, and I feel like when Stim finishes up, he's going to be really well situated to maybe go for a push, right?
Yep. Well, he's already got the double medevac drop moving out here, and you're spot on. This Banshee.
Nope. Feedback.
Oh my god. So much value out of that Banshee. So much.
Yeah, it's what, 23 workers killed and a few more still going down over here. He tries to go out to the third base. He finds some Stalkers pretty vulnerable on their own. The Widow Mine's going off on all of the Zealots. 2 of them go down, but the other 2 are very, very hurt, and it's just mostly Stalkers And High Templars that are 10 seconds away from Storm, he will find the Medivacs and the rest of the Bioforce.
Run the Medivacs away, trade that bio out against a few more Stalkers. He's feeling great. Like, economically, Terran's generally supposed to be behind Protoss and Workers due to Chrono Boost, and you use Mules to catch up, but now he's in a situation where Mules are just giving him more money. He's got that Raven. He did repair it, so he's got 200 energy. Oh, High Templar are going to be a factor.
Astrea is really badly supply blocked. He has 3 pylons on the way right now, but that's also hurt some of that worker production that you were just talking about, where he is hurting economically. With the Double Forge finally coming on up, he's going to be able to try and catch up a bit in upgrades, but this is much further behind than a Protoss player would normally be.
Yeah, and Astrea is also the type of player that likes to build on an early lead, and like he would already have a 4th saturated by now, but instead, he's just now getting his forges. He's just now saturated the 3rd. And MaSa, well, he's got his 3rd fully saturated too. And Terran on even economy, base count worker-wise to a Protoss, is in a phenomenal position to be in. This Raven is going to be very, very crucial for this attack, because if he can get a Dorito cannon into center mass of the Protoss force, he's going to have a good time. There are so many High Templar though, and this is the ultimate comeback mechanic for Protoss, right? It's that AoE. You can spam it pretty effectively. When you have this many High Templar, there is no, oh yeah, I'm just going to punch through it or dance around it. Like, no. The map will be covered in storms.
Yeah, with 9 High Templars and some of them building up close to their 2nd storms at this point, that is a metric ton of psionic storms available to them. But there's those Widow Mines, a lot of Widow Mines in the composition over here. And if you can get through that frontline buffer, this becomes really problematic for the Protoss player. MaSa gonna siege up those siege tanks. The Stalkers taking a lot of fights there. Oh boy, the anti-armor missiles cover the entire army. There are some really magnificent storms in the backside, but a lot of the bio is still able to heal back up.
Yeah, counterattack tries to get some work done here, but the bio can defend against it. Those Zealots do not have upgrades yet, so they're just really not that strong. Man, without the storms, this game ends right there.
Yeah.
Like, if there's a world where he YOLOs on that, and if he can kill that army, like, the game just ends. But with that many Psi Storms, the game also swings the other way if he suicides into it and doesn't kill that army.
Yeah, good Chrono Boost usage for the Double Forges. He was able to quickly get out the 1-1 and start playing some catch-up. With additional Chrono Boost, he may only just be a little bit behind on 2-2 as well if he gets started on that immediately, but maybe a little bit more focus on this big push. And here comes some more storms from the High Templars and the War Prism. He loses the High Templars. He's got plenty more on the south side, and there's no ghosts on the front lines.
I wonder if MaSa realizes that Nexus is there, because he's got a really easy kill on it. Move up to that, tries to move the Raven forward and gets feedback.
Oh yeah, MaSa really stimming up a lot here. Even as the Marauders are sitting in the orange. There is the snipe off on the Liberator. Some of the Widow Mines also starting to go down. Oh, High Templars and the Warp Prism getting sniped off by the Widow Mines here. Raven barely might manage to survive. The Marauders making their way forward to snipe off these Stalkers. But he did get sniped off on that base.
Interesting engagement. I think that huge net positive from MaSa. He gets wiped, but the Raven is still alive. If you can get that home, that'll be sick. I don't know about pushing into this. There's still a lot of Psi Storms available.
Feedback's also on these Medivacs, since he's realized that he sniped off so many of them.
2 EMPs to end this game.
Yeah,
he's getting ghosts out right now. 2 of them are about to finish.
Yeah. So those ghosts will have to still get to the front line. Astrea still has a little bit more time, but like you were saying, it's just purely High Templars and Storms for the most part. He doesn't have a Robotics Bay on the way. He's remaking the Warp Prism. He's remaking his 4th base. Astrea doesn't have a big transition point, so those EMPs could be massive here.
He's going to run stem into the natural expansion, and oh my god, kill the robotics facility. That's sick.
All right, no Colossus.
6 City.
No Colossus in the immediate or even near future here. Tries to storm, the Medivacs pick up and head over to the main base at the same time, and a fight is forced over on the north side. Snipes off an Archon, eats a bit of the storm, but gets out of there mostly alive, and the drop in the main base mostly gets cleaned up with some Zealot Warpins, but MaSa is being very, very annoying right now.
Yeah, this has been pretty flawless out of MaSa.
He's looking really strong right now. He's got his 4th base established in the center area, so nice little rally push forward. He's already started on 3-3. And I think the aggression has also halted Astrea from maximizing the usage of his Chrono Boost on the upgrades. So even those are starting to fall, they're about as far behind as they were before.
Astrea's done a lot of things really nicely, but the biggest issue is just that MaSa's control in his fights and the economic damage earlier has given him such a good position. Like, we've got the Terran that's ahead on upgrades versus Protoss. When do we ever say that? And he's on even bases. In fact, that 4th Nexus doesn't have anything there yet, so he's been way ahead economically the entire game.
Yeah, whenever you get a command center for the 4th base in the center of the map and it's a planetary fortress, this always complicates things for the Protoss player. You need to have some storms or Colossus, something to deal with the SCVs repairing it. So it just complicates the entire fight. The Zealots get taken out a lot faster for the planetary fortress, but this angle is a little bit awkward. There's some ghosts over here for MaSa, maybe looking for some EMPs. Just goes to the Archon.
Yep, and the observer coverage, by the way, for Astrea has been pretty gross. He's been over that left rock for the entire game, so he's seen all the army move outs. He had one on the right side, too, to see everything as well. And with this many High Templar, it has been so difficult for him to get anything going. Like, he hasn't landed the money EMPs, and he's going for a little counterattack on the top side, but Zealot Stalker Warpin is going to be able to deal with it. And Astrea is slowly finding his footing in this game. Not saying he's out of the woods yet, but he is certainly dug himself out of the grave he was in a few minutes ago.
Well, those woods are going to get very thick in a second as 3-3 is about to finish up for MaSa, and I think this might be the big time where he feels like he can start pushing back a lot more. The Ghost gets more EMPs off on the Archons, but here comes a bit of a flank from Astrea from the north side. He's going to try and move in. He blinks forward, snipes off one limiter, snipes off a second, now going after some of the medevacs. There aren't that many charge slots left over, though, so he's going to try and warp in a few.
Warping in the face of danger here with that Prism, and then losing everything on the retreat.
Yeah.
That was a really good fight. And that 3-3 helped so much.
Yes, it very much so does. And 3-3 is still on the way there for Astrea, but he's lost so much. And unlike before, he does not have 7-8 High Templars to fall back to with Storm. Nope. He has 1 High Templar on the map.
Yeah, no, he's run out of gas. Gets some feedbacks on the Ghost, but that doesn't really do anything. G is called as MaSa takes game number 1. Very well done. Astrea fought hard. I think the style that he went for bought him the most possible amount of time that any of his other options could have done. If he had gone for Colossus, he has maybe 1 or 2, and that big push on the top side doesn't just kill the 4th, he wins the game. Or he gets Interference Matrix when he attacks the 3rd, or the low ground below the main base on the right side. Like, he got the ultimate Dorito cannon straight into the center mass of all the Protoss units. For those of you, the anti-armor missile of the Raven, of course, we're talking about, that reduces the shields and armor by 3. So even if you don't have any armor or shield upgrades, it actually puts you into negative stats. So you will take 3 extra damage regardless of what your upgrades are.
It's like your shields decide to zap you instead of actually protecting you after you take the anti-armor missile.
Well, you just think about it as them having less structural integrity.
Yeah. That's fair. But that game was actually, I think, the perfect analogy for how their games usually go, where Astrea does something that kind of looks a little bit cute and clever and is trying to get a bit ahead by cutting some corners here and there. MaSa does something a little bit less ordinary in the matchup, catches Astrea off guard, puts him really far behind. Astrea has some really smart on-the-fly kind of decision-making to try and bring himself back using the High Templars and everything. But MaSa's macro is also still pretty solid, so he's able to kind of close those games out. I feel like this is the dance that they do every single time they face off against each other. So Astrea has to find a way to change the pace of this. I mean, I know it's a little bit trite to say, but like things like the Max Packs build, things that will get into MaSa's face before he kind of messes with Astrea, I feel like I would really like to see.
I don't disagree with you, but I will disagree on the Max Packs.
Yeah, that's fair. I could actually totally get behind not doing Max Packs, but
that was like someone was like, yo man, what if he jumped on a skateboard and span around 11 times? It's like, what? It's like, how could you even? It's like, yeah, but it would be really cool if it worked, right? And they're like,
it worked really well for a while.
I don't know. I never lost a game.
And then they hit the ground.
To me it was just as good as any other proxy gateway build that Protoss does, except you don't have a gateway in your main, so you just die if they get a Reaper across and you don't use recall or something.
Yeah. All right, well, we're getting into game number 2 now on Acropolis. We'll see if Astrea can change the tide of things, if he can mix things up from their usual dance, or if MaSa is once again going to be coming out on top.
I look at the Max Packs build like that 3 Ravager rush that Zergs do on 1 base. I'm like, thank you for the free.
Oh my God.
Thank you for the free LO.
Yeah. I know you definitely have a distaste for that build.
Oh, I just SCV scout. I SCV scout it like I do it the old way, from the old Muslim tutorials where he's like, and once you get your 13th SCV and your barracks is underway, send a worker to scout your opponent's base. And even though they changed how many workers we start with, I'm like, no, I still send it when the barracks is like 10% done. You cannot. Nothing will get past you if you do that.
All right, so we have not just the barracks getting proxy, but we also have another SCV in the top right-hand side going through an interesting pathway over to this location. So he is going to be proxying.
Do you think he lifts? Do you think he tries to lift into the base? No, he won't do that. That would be insane. But it would be cool.
It would be a very MaSa thing to do. So when you say it's insane, I'm like, is that your reason why it won't happen? But yeah, I don't think he needs to, right?
So you think this probe comes in and he's like, okay, let me check the natural on the 3rd now for the 1 barracks.
Yeah. I mean, to credit MaSa a little bit, the timing that you were talking about last year with WCS Challenge and everything, everyone always likes to talk about Korean Maru and how he always proxied and everything. I feel like I have been seeing MaSa doing that sort of just, I will proxy every game, including the games that I'm not actually trying to proxy you or on your side of the map, just behind my mineral line or over my 3rd or something. And it really does keep Protoss players guessing. You see the double gas and you're like, is this on my side of the map? Is this a barracks factory? Is this just a single barracks? Is this, what is this?
Well, I like to think of MaSa as one of those StarCraft players that's like, if we were to dig up like a time capsule, or if we made a time capsule of a StarCraft player from long days past, he would be like one of the guys that comes out and he's like, yeah, I'm just going to do the same builds I was doing, you know. Ooh.
That's a really nice scout. He knows that's going to be the Marauder play.
Wow, shield battery starts.
I guess the Stalker was halfway done when he scouted this, but this is really, really tough. That many
just buys time for an Immortal is what he wants to do. Immortal with shield battery and probe pull should be able to shut this down if he just builds like 2 Immortals in a row. Of course, that's going to be expensive, so let's see what he can do.
All right, even the SCV is going to be joining the fray to try and get some of that high ground vision. The Stalkers going to have some additional DPS versus the Marauders, but the Marauders do so much with the Stalker.
That shield battery is not in range of the north pylon.
Custom Shell is actually not finished yet. Does have some micro ability with the Stalker now.
Yeah, and the 2nd Stalker is out. Pokes down the SCV building the bunker.
This is really nice micro so far from Astrea, but this is where things get complicated because the shield battery is almost out of energy, and that bunker is providing that high ground vision.
Yep. That pylon's really important. Yeah. Like, I'm pretty sure, I mean, I could be wrong, that battery may be unpowered by that one too.
Immortal is almost out, and there it is. So 3 Marauders do not want to fight that. He wants to pull back and get up more.
Your build is over here. I mean, he's going to get a prism and just go across the map. So I don't know what MaSa's plan is, to just try and defend with, what, 3 or 4 Marauders? He's got to build a bunker in his main. But the prism will just go to the other side of his base.
Yeah, because the Marauders don't shoot up, actually. So you don't ever get to attack the War Prism itself.
Fear Dragon, why can't Marauders just lean back?
Well, they're kind of like turtles. If they fall on their backs, they suddenly can't get back up. That's how you get a missile turret, Nate.
Oh my God, it all makes sense. The man in the missile turret didn't sign up for that job.
The man on the missile turret was just a Marauder that fell over, and they're like, all right, we'll take off the armor and put a building here. All right, so he does want to start a Cyclone, but he's a little bit supply block. Okay, there it goes. Cyclone gets started, but Cyclones take a long time to finish up. I like the blocking of the Nexus, actually. That is going to mess with Astrea's plans a lot.
Unlike Marines, Marauders are not hit scan, though, so he can actually micro and dodge the Marauder attacks.
He's doing a great job.
Prism. Of course, if he messes up for even a second, like, you know, and he loses the Immortal, then it becomes really ugly. I like that he's going for a Viking, too. Like, just the ultimate, nope, get out of here.
Did MaSa land a building inside of Astrea's main? Yep, he's building Marines inside of Astrea's main.
The dream.
And this is really nice because I want to note that whole micro you're talking about with the Warp Prism and dodging the shots, that is extremely, extremely difficult to do, even for top-level players effectively. So you don't have a lot of attention span to, say, notice the barracks as building a single Marine in your main.
Yep. And he has to like micro those probes, one of those distracting things. Scans, gets the Observer. I mean, he has a Viking and a Cyclone, so the Prism is no longer a factor, at least not for the time being. So it goes home.
You know,
Wise
Nate,
choice.
I actually really want to hear how you feel this game is kind of like equalizing out, or if someone has like a big edge. Because originally I was saying, you know, Astrea did a great job of defending against that push, but I actually feel like
oh my god.
Wow, okay, Astrea.
I was going to say I like MaSa's position. If Astrea gets away with this, then this is exactly the type of, I'll just say, BS I expect Astrea to do. Because, and I mean this in a very endearing way, this is the type of thing we were talking about. He does cheeky stuff like this. He's like, you know, if I just take my expand, MaSa's command center is done, so we're on even economy, which is actually bad for me as the Protoss. And he's probably going to try to get stim, so he won't actually hit me with a big push for a long time. I think I've got time. If I get away with the third Nexus, I'm going to be leaps and bounds ahead of my opponent. And I love this call. I think it's incredibly gutsy. It's insanely greedy. Borderline insane. But if he goes for armor upgrades right now and gets charged, or I guess he could start with Blink.
Oh, I was going to see a Tech Lab Starport. Does he just immediately bring that Observer back home?
Well, he already has the Robo. So
oh, yeah, he has a second one.
Yeah, life is good.
Third one, actually.
Yeah. His Observer coverage last game was really good. It's not like he doesn't build them. Oof. He just didn't have that Robo at a good time. But yeah, charge, +1 armor. I love it. I love what I'm seeing out of him because he's going to have a redonkulous amount of gateway units, which is the way that he likes to play. So if MaSa doesn't make something crazy happen before Stim, and I don't think he's going to, I really like this game for Astrea now. Yeah, I mean, in 2 minutes, he's going to have like a 20 worker lead, and he's going to have his 3 bases saturated going into Storm. It's going to snowball hard, and MaSa's entire game plan right now for putting pressure on, because of course MaSa always wants to have something on the map, it's the Banshee. But with so many Observers and already Stalkers ready to intercept, he should not take too much damage. He should maybe will lose like 2 to 3 workers, but it looks like I think only 1 worker going down so far, and Banshee is now trapped. Yep, so that doesn't really do anywhere near as much as we saw on New Repugnancy. And we've got ourselves a ball game. Third base is looking good. Astrea's got that money, hala, esport dollar. Charge is almost ready, Storm is coming in, a bunch of gateways are getting added. I like this. The second Banshee is actually going to try and pull the Stalkers back, so now the first Banshee can actually leave, maybe join forces. Gets a couple more workers there. Not bad. Up to 3 kills now. And he gets a High Templar here. He's like, well, I guess feedback would be nice just to get rid of the cloak, get a little extra damage in there. And he does feedback the west side Banshee. Oh, that's actually, I did not even think of that. The feedback range is higher than the Stalker range. So eventually, if that Banshee just sits there in the corner, he can just feedback it and eventually it'll die, right? You'll eventually whittle away at it. I mean, I guess. It's not the most efficient thing since feedback nerf last year, but you're not wrong. It's better than getting a Phoenix, though. Yeah. Or you just put a shield battery in each mineral line. That's true. Which I don't hate. Nice feedback. Gets that Banshee on the south side. That's also on the retreat here, but MaSa still keeps it alive, so he can come back in maybe another time, try and get some more harassment done. Storm's closing in on finishing, though. And MaSa, his third command center so late compared to Astrea's economy. Yeah, no, the double Nexus after breaking out of that was the perfect call. Astrea is now rich, and he's going into his +2 armor upgrade. And this is going to be a very limp Terran push coming out of MaSa with a couple of tanks and not really a lot of Marines. And he's going to walk into a wall of Zealots. If Astrea gets a whiff of this, just stop building anything that isn't Zealots, and he's going to be able to blast through this. Yep, and he's even getting a +2 armor right now. Doesn't care about those weapon upgrades. Just keep those Zealots alive and useful, making more and more of those. Going to intercept this push in the middle, trying to force a bit of a siege up. He uses that charge nice and early on, pulls back though, and I mean, even just some Guardian Shields are going to make this so complicated for MaSa. Yep, so he's going to try and poke up, not doing a whole lot there. Photon Cannon killed the Banshee in the main, by the way, during that. So the multi-prong harass potential is completely gone, and MaSa's just going to go home. He can't do anything against this. You need to get, but to deal with this style, you need to get, I think, Drilling Claw Widow Mines, one of the most important things that you can do. for the gateway heavy play, just because the longevity also helps, but the Zealots are going to be a huge thorn in his side if he relies on siege tanks and marauders too much. Yeah,
Astrea, I mean, being able to get away with murder there on that third Nexus was great, and MaSa has got to make a decision. He still looks like gonna try and push in, or at least poke forward. I guess I don't hate that, but don't commit.
Well, he's got to do
he doesn't
something.
Commit, yeah.
He's got to do something.
Yeah.
But he's one, like, and the thing is, we talk about the upgrades, like, yeah, +2 armor is about to be done, and he's got a ton of charged Zealots, which is great against everything in this army. But there's also Storm. There's also Storm on the table. And he's got the Prism with High Templar in it. So even if he could kill the Zealots, it doesn't even matter because he's going to get Storm dropped all over him.
All right, MaSa's just going to head over to the main base. He forces a recall on a bunch of the Zealots. It's just the Zealots, by the way, so maybe MaSa could have still done something there, and a lot of Zealots get warped into the warp position.
He wants to try and force like a weird recall / base trade with the attack on his third, because MaSa knows he cannot stop
those
army.
Storms.
MaSa cannot stop this army if it goes straight to his third base. So he wants to bring it back home as much as possible. He just doesn't want to tap it, but no, he just taps out. GG, well played. Astrea ties things up. That's really good. You can really see the strengths of the style that he's going for. This is something that we saw a lot of in the last year, building up more. It's no longer a hipster play by Astrea to go for Mass Gateway. And Mass Gateway is really good. With how fast he gets his Templar archives generally, he has so many storms. The fact that we're having a conversation about Gateway units and how well upgraded they are, without mentioning that he has like 7 High Templar with 200 energy. Like, now.
It does say something about this. Really nice, I mean, just decision-making there from Astrea, right? He takes a bit of a risk there by going for that fast expansion, but it pays off really, really well. And
he had 3 units. He had the Immortal that he pulled back. He had the Prism and that Stalker. And really nothing else. And he said, double Nexus. Double Nexus is the right call.
And I think Astrea always prides himself on being someone who's really good at reading the game state to try and make those decisions, which is the reason why you see him making a lot of greedy choices in a lot of his games. Sometimes they do backfire, of course. I mean, actually, same thing for MaSa. He feels like he's really good at kind of mind gaming his opponent, but sometimes they backfire. And that does cause a lot of that, I guess, inconsistency for both of them. That's
Championships aren't won off playing it safe, Fear Dragon.
No, they're not. Can't take down a Titan unless you are willing to break a few eggs.
Sure. Yeah. Would you kill a Titan with eggs? What type? Are we like Godzilla Titans or what?
Well, I think I would throw fire on them and then accidentally
fire is how you make sure they don't get back up.
Yeah. All right, guys. We're going to be heading to a short little break while the players have a little bit more time to think about what they want to do in the next game. So we'll see you guys in a little bit with more WCS Challenger. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to WCS NA Challenger. We're here in the playoffs in our third quarterfinal match, with currently the score sitting to be 1-1 versus Astrea and MaSa. And we're getting ready to move into game number 3 on Thunderbird.
Thunderbird.
How you feeling about how this series is shaping up? Because obviously that first game, a little bit weird there. Game number 2 also got a bit strange.
MaSa is he tripped on a rake in that second game. He tried to do his thing, but Astrea is he's just a clever guy. He's not a robot. He's not one of those people that you see playing the video game and just doing whatever without really considering what their opponent is up to. And I think that is a huge part of his success here, because I think he has a very realistic shot at winning this if he can just get up into that good macro phase, because his gateway unit control is impeccable. Even in the new Repugnancy game where he got blasted, his Stalker harass and control was phenomenal. He got so much damage done that he made the game very ugly for MaSa, even though MaSa killed so many probes that it should have been impossible for him to lose. It still looked really rough. And to me, those are like the hallmarks of what can really set you up to be a winner.
Yeah.
Like he did everything that he needed to do. He just took a lot of damage from being blindsided by that Banshee. So I kind of call a mulligan on that game because of the way that happened. And if he's aware and he can get those macro games, then I think we're going to see a few more maps that look like game number 2, where he dominated MaSa.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. And I'm really glad that you actually mentioned that. I think MaSa is one of the players that is worth keeping an eye out on, because he has shown he's capable of beating or at least taking Neve to the very edge, and he actually does have a really good win record versus the other big favorite in today's bracket, which is Scarlet. He has like a 70 or 80% win rate versus Scarlet. It's just like, he is her kryptonite for some reason through like the mind games and everything that he throws out. So given that could potentially be his next match, I'm sure that Scarlet is sitting there saying, Astrea, come on, power Protoss, let's go.
Yep.
So, see Probe getting harassed back. MaSa is able to establish that command center on the low ground.
He's going to 2-1-1 this game, Fear Dragon.
Oh yeah, there is a second barracks on the way there. How do you feel about that, this kind of build?
Map's too big. I don't like it. I think Astrea should be able to get his Twilight Council out and get into Blink before an attack like this comes, but okay. It's got interesting. Stargate. I don't know what he wants to do with this. He could, I guess Oracle is what makes sense immediately, but for some reason I just feel like Max Angel is going to keep it interesting.
You think it might go for Phoenix or something?
A couple of Phoenix on this map I think would be really fun.
I guess air really is the only way that you are a bit more afraid of an attack coming in, right? Because the easy 3 bases you can take from ground.
I think his Stalker micro is so good that if he gets 2-1-1 without like multiple siege tanks, I could see his Stalkers just picking away at the army the whole way across the map and killing everything, or at least killing enough that by the time he reaches his base, it's like watching Rotterdam stream where all of a sudden 12 charged zealots are ready and waiting since you couldn't go straight across the map.
It is going to be an Oracle first, at least, and that's always nice. It gets some harassment done. It can definitely pair very well with the Adept pressure that he is going to be putting on here. Shades that Adept forward. Depot is raised. Astrea already just ready to cancel that Shade. But, hey, you know, 2 Adepts can actually start taking out some of these Marines if you do a nice job with the Micro here. There's 1 Marine taken out. 2nd Marine loses an Adept and is going to sack this Adept in. No.
Don't know how I feel about that.
So it seems like he's probably going to go up to, I imagine, 3 Oracles over here, considering he is getting the 2nd one. Losing one of the Adepts does sort of suck, because if you can pair the 3 Oracles with even just 2 Adepts of harassment, it really does stretch the Terran defenses pretty thin. But taking care of a couple of the Marines makes it usually easier to get more damage done with that Oracle, but the Widowmine very well hidden.
Big oof.
That's
a huge
you
catch.
You can't even see
MaSa.
that. That's amazing. The Mule just completely blocks that Widowmine.
Yeah. Mules are thick, man.
Nicely done. And that is going to be annoying, because MaSa is absolutely the kind of player who says, all right, I got the hit. Let's change the Widowmine position and make this harder once again to spot out. So There's the revelation. It looks like Astrea is just going to play this a little bit safer. He doesn't want to dive into any mineral lines anymore. Not after that last one.
Stim is almost done. The medevacs are coming out. And based on the way that this started, it's not necessarily that Astrea took damage. He's getting the third behind that Oracle play, but the Twilight's only just now beginning. So he doesn't have a ton of tools at his disposal to defend against an attack. The Stasis Ward is cute, Shield Battery is cute, but the drop could just go to the third, and there is nothing there. He needs time. He needs a lot of time.
Absolutely. And I mean,
do you think he goes just straight into charge? Because like the Zealots are going to be better in the straight up combat? No, okay,
No.
+1 attack and blink.
Yeah, the problem is he still just doesn't have that many units. It's 4 Stalkers and the 2 Adepts, and I don't even think that they're actually going to be in position for this
MaSa
drop.
could just bop him here. He's
Oh, just going straight
wow,
in.
that probe is 3 trillion IQ to
like
hold
that.
it there to see it, but can he do anything about it is the question.
Yeah, what's also tough is that it's not only going to be a very thin defense in the main base, but even if he gets up enough units in the main base, you just go to the third.
Yeah, but we're reaching like game-ending tier damage between 13 probes killed, and you can't get rid of these Marines just yet. Like, these are just normie stalkers. There's nothing special about them. A lot of the Marines do get cleaned up.
Focuses down probes as they're going out. Blink is not done, so the Stalkers have to go the long way down the ramp to try and clean up this drop. A couple of those Marines just going to be left around to snipe off a few remaining workers. 19 killed. MaSa is now sitting up 5 workers, which is usually a pretty good spot for a Terran player, but I do want to note I don't see a third base, so this is still about the follow-up attack.
There is still opportunity now. Blink is getting close. +1 attack is getting close. And there is that Stasis Ward, so if he tries to go up towards the front, like there's always the miracle that he gets grabbed for those 20 seconds, which right now, 20 seconds is probably the most valuable thing that MaSa could give Astrea.
Yeah, I think +1 weapons will be done in time for this push, or at least like the middle of the fight. Astrea is just getting ready for the drop to head over the natural. The scan actually misses the army.
He's going to put the tanks by the minerals, though.
He sees one stasis trap. He doesn't actually scan the second one, so I think the Marines, he's going to run forward.
Wow,
he misses that stasis. And
really
perfect stasis. And
get
now
him!
The
He could get the tanks. I think he could blink on the tanks.
I think he's going to scan ahead. He's going to scout ahead with the Adepts. I think that's smart, but he's going to see not a whole lot. And this is where you go.
This is when you go. There's barely any Marines. You can get the tanks. You should be able to get the medevacs if you want.
Okay, the Marines are about to pop out. Ooh,
oh yeah, that dropped at the same time in the third. That's brutal.
That's a little bit too much. Astrea, he was getting some pretty good defensive postures, but this is way too much. And now the Marines don't have to worry about the sentries. They don't have to worry about Astrea. MaSa takes the game.
He got everything that he could have asked for in that game and still couldn't, well, past the opening, he got everything he could have asked for and it still couldn't make it happen. Like, that stasis on the Marines is huge, but MaSa hitting with that drop at the exact same time is what really closes it. If MaSa doesn't send that medevac out, if he like leaves it at home or whatever, it goes too long way around, then I think there's a very realistic possibility because he had charge on the way, but that's kind of the downside of going for an Oracle in that situation is if you don't deal economic damage to the Terran, especially since they're doing that 2-1-1, you are not going to have upgrades. You will not have blink or charge in time for the first attack. He was lucky to survive the first double medevac drop, but it did so much damage that the game was basically over at that point.
Yeah, bit of a rough game there, and of course the opening with the first Oracle and stuff going down definitely hurt a bit since he wasn't able to get any real damage done. But we get removed into game number 4, which is now going to be match point here for MaSa, sitting up 2-1. Astrea has been able to take that second game, which was really important to just showcase that if it does go into a more normal-looking macro game, he looks really good, but it's about getting there.
I wouldn't do the Stargate opener like that.
Yeah,
I'd like to see. I guess maybe this is kind of counterproductive to say because I think Astrea mixing things up and cutting corners is his strength, but I kind of want to see him be more predictable because when he does that style and he controls well, it's disgusting. I can only imagine the flood of tears in the chat when he won that second game because his control was perfect.
Yeah, so I think the way that I always look at like the different unpredictability of both of these players is Astrea has these pre-planned, unpredictable things that he'll do. He has these build orders or these plans of like, okay, I'm going to cut these corners, and this does really well versus a Norma build. And he is good at reading the game state and trying to make some adaptations from there. But for the most part, he is really good when he's the one controlling the unpredictability. MaSa, I feel like, kind of just lives in chaos. He is the guy who says, I had this plan, and you scouted like a little bit of it. So now I'm going to use the fact that you scouted this on the fly to come up with some other alternative plan that messes with you and you're not going to be prepared for. MaSa is the guy who I think does better when the game plan just diverges from what he was originally intending. So I do agree with you. I think that just having a more normal game will probably do better when you have two players who are playing unpredictable.
Yeah, just because that macro style of Astrea's is so strong and he's so greedy that it has been working out really well. He has picked up a lot of advantages and leveraged a lot economically, but at the end of the day, you have to be able to deal with those moves that your opponent's throwing at you. And that Thunderbird game, he hurt himself. He flew an Oracle into a Widow Mine and a Mineral Line, and when the Terran player doesn't have the mine there and you just go in and kill a bunch of SCVs, it's one of the best feelings in the world. When they do and your Oracle just blows up and you don't have a depth either to try and like shade in and finish those weakened SCVs, no, that's it. Like you're a ship lost at sea with no wind in your sails.
Ooh, okay, so Astrea is doing the opposite end of what we were saying, but I'm actually still on board with these kind of things. Where he's going to go for a fast double gas, he's going to play more aggressive, and the idea here is get into MaSa's face before he can get in his face, and from there he actually has practice and plays a lot of these.
So it's
styles.
like face off.
Yeah, it's kind of just the idea.
Who's John Travolta and who's Nicolas Cage in this analogy then?
Well, I think you're Nicolas Cage, right? You have a good Nicolas Cage impression, so.
Ooh. Well, I don't know how to make my head light on fire, but I'm working on it, Fear Dragon. Trust me, I'm working on it.
Don't worry, one day you'll become the Ghost Rider. So, MaSa is sending his SCV across the map, and he is going to get some scouting information about this. The probe, though, for Astrea is just looking around. Now,
he's looking for proxies.
Yeah. He's making the early Zealot. Was he just really hoping that he was going to be going up against a proxy? Or, I mean, I know that he definitely has like some other alternative plan follow-up.
He can still get a really fast blink follow-up to this, or Stargate if he so chooses.
Yeah, there are still great follow-ups here to stay on one base and get your double gas this quickly, but just the early Zealot and everything. Okay, he does cancel the Zealot. I actually like that. So that's a zero-cost sort of thing where you just start up the Zealot, and then if you don't see any proxies that seem to be coming forward, you say, all right, I don't need this. You're not proxying me. At least I'm going to assume so. And then I get started with a sentry or so when the Summer Next Core finishes up. So he's going to have a second one on the way. Ooh, okay. He used to go for this really like heavy early sentry count back in. It's been a while since I've seen it.
Are you telling me that he's the barcode mass sentry guy?
No. Not like 10, 25, 30 sentries that killed you that one time. That was a great clip, by the way. But just even getting up like
emotionally scarred.
It was a good series, but I think that he usually goes for like maybe 3 or 4 sentries, so he gets some really good scouting information, and he does play pretty greedy behind it with scouting. So we'll see if he decides to do something like that. No, just gonna add on the Stalker from here.
Astrea is the kind of guy that if he thinks he knows what you're doing, he can almost always defend it, which is a great confident playstyle, and that's why we see him give such good games.
All right, Sentry moves forward, sees the 2 barracks, sees the factory, building that tech lab.
But it's combat shields. It's combat shields, Fear Dragon, and no starport. We've seen this build before on this map too. This is this one we had actually quite a bit in the last season of Challenger. This is one of those like 2 base push versus Protoss era style things.
So I think a big thing here for Astrea is, remember, he does have the 2 sentries, not just one. So he's going to have hallucinated Phoenix potentially coming out a lot more often. So it's important for him to spot out what is coming out of that factory, because that's going to help reveal, okay, you just have a bunch of siege tanks being made. All right, I'm going to see combat shield Marines soon. That's going to give him just a little bit of extra time to prepare and, I guess, get situated to deal with this.
Yeah, these builds are always interesting. Usually involves an SCV pull as well. So
yeah. Reaper's actually still alive. Wow. And Stalker is not going to be able to chase that down effectively. Oh, the Hallucinating Phoenix misses out on the army moving out. And is he going to see any Marines now that Combat Shields is finished?
Oh my god.
He's not seeing anything right now, but he's also not seeing any units at the front.
Okay, seeing that Combat Shields is done now and the units are not here, he should know it's happening.
There's one Immortal on the way, second Immortal also now out. He's going to try and greet this push at the front, and this is actually really nice.
Yeah, you don't want to let the Siege tanks establish position, and getting the War Prism behind this will give him even more micro potential, which the more that Astrea can micro, the better he does. Very micro-focused Protoss.
He's only on one gateway right now, so he's finally adding on the other two gateways. Here come in some more units. The Stalker is actually going to find a couple of these Marines, but the rest of the Marines are going to find him, so he'll have to get out of there. Nice micros so far. He is buying some time.
Every bit of poke, every bit of delay is that time that you're talking about Fear Dragon is so important. Tries to parse off the army with some force fields. Doesn't get much, but buys time.
Still has 2 force fields also available, which is going to be helpful for that ramp. And MaSa also knows how much this whole push has been revealed, so he seems like he's feeling scared about it. Yeah.
This attack would kill a lot of Protosses, and especially you just mentioning he only had the one gateway. It doesn't matter. Astrea was so on the ball because of those 2 sentries that he built. He just had an infinite plethora of scouting information, and that is incredibly valuable in StarCraft 2.
All right, another Hallucinate Phoenix Scout coming out since that sentry still had some energy left over. The Immortals are going, okay, the Immortals are greeting a War Prism. I'm like, the Immortals are going off to the center of the map on their own. No, it's going to be a nice Immortal drop. And remember that while Combat Shields is research, Stim is still on the way, and it's getting close to finishing, but that would be a really nice pickoff if MaSa's just slightly out of position.
Yeah, this Immortal drops like this always get gnarly. The Siege Tank should be an easy pick. I don't think that there's time
Target fires down the Marauder?
Yeah, there's no time to try to cancel Stim or anything.
Not anymore. Getting a couple of Marines here, though. This is absolutely some value trades.
Let the Immortals regenerate their shields, let them regenerate their barrier, and just keep on running.
Yeah, I mean, you know that the first 2 units out of that starport are probably going to be the medevacs, so might as well take advantage of this time while you still have it. Immortal taking a lot of damage there, gets a shot off on the Siege tank.
If he had dropped it, I think he meant to drop it in range of the, like inside the 3 range, right? So that the tanks couldn't shoot, but he unsieged a tank in the back there, and as well as the bunker pushing him away.
Well, Templar Archives coming up behind this, as well as Charge finishing up. So Astrea is looking really, really solid right now. And MaSa, so far, doesn't really seem to have any signs of that 3rd base just yet. So he is going for the big follow-up attack.
This is going to be a huge assault from MaSa. Maybe he tries to do the double drop while pushing the front, but this is going to be really, really tricky. The Prism almost passes by those medevacs.
End up missing each other, so this drop is going to go unscouted, but there's already a couple of High Templars. Storm's not going to be done, but even some feedbacks will be really nice to try and limit the ability for MaSa to stick around and be super long effective.
Choo-choo.
This is going to potentially be hitting right when Storm finishes, or it'll hit about 5 to 10 seconds before Storm finishes. Either way, Nate, I'm really afraid right now.
I think Astrea has everything he needs to smash this.
Oh, yeah.
Everything at home for MaSa is dead. Like those Zealots, there's no answer to that right now, especially with Charge. But if these tanks can siege up, that's where MaSa maybe gets an opportunity. That's the most important thing.
Literally, as the attack comes forward and the Siege tank siege up, Storm finishes up. The Zealots are making this. If it wasn't an all-in before, this is even more all-in right now. MaSa,
he's only got 28 SCVs, and a lot of them were actually at his base. He's sending, I think, some of them home now, because he's like, yeah, this won't work.
Yeah, MaSa's betting his underpants on this one, and it's not looking too good.
Yeah, well, he's not actually doing economic damage. He's got a siege position, but look at that. Just bleed a few Zealots through, let them chunk out against the Marines.
Hallucinated Archon, so he's going to be able to absorb the first wave of Siege tank fire. The Siege tanks are starting to close the distance, but these Zealots alone are going uncontested. And Astrea, I would love if you could just get a couple of Zealots to get like a wraparound from the backside from the 3rd base or something. That is the one kind of fear here, is that he doesn't have enough of the 3rd base to defend.
Yeah, I'm wondering when he decides to just like punch the gun and go for it.
Well, he sees some of the SCVs heading over to that 3rd base, so he decides now is the time. Storm's come out on some of the bio. He's trying to close the distance on the rest of it, but he doesn't even need to. GG.
Very well done by Astrea. And this is what I was talking about, is if he can get into that macro game. His control is really good, and his macro is really good. He gets out tons of units. His positioning was phenomenal. The way that he pushed forward with the 2 Immortals and the 2 Stalkers and the 2 Sentries when Siege Tanks and Marines were coming to his base, and he's like, yeah, well, I have enough force fields that you can't charge me. You don't have stim. And all I need to do is just not let you siege in front of my base, and this army is going to destroy you.
Really, really smart, intelligent play, and like you said, it was all off the back of scouting, which I think is one of the key things that is not always easy to do versus a player like MaSa, but he does an excellent job with that sentry opening. So now we move to a decider match.
Game 5,
number
baby.
5. Winner is going to not only move on to the semifinals, but that also does include that top 4 spot where you get a seed into WCS Summer, the group stage 3. For North America especially, you have to keep in mind that WCS Summer is happening over in Kiev. This is a very long trip for these guys. Even Astrea, who, yeah, he's now done with school and everything, he's graduated, but it's one of those trips that would be very difficult for someone like him or even MaSa to make just on their own.
Yeah, it's not cheap flight either.
It's actually not uncommon, I think, even with WCS Spring, that the players for North America that don't manage to get a top 4 seed and get that flight and everything paid for, they just don't get to go. They miss that event.
Yeah.
So this is a big opportunity for both of them.
Yeah, very, very, very long trip to Kiev. So.
All right, next map is going to be Kings Cove. We've seen that MaSa really doesn't want to take a 3rd base very quickly, it seems like, throughout this series. So Astrea maybe starting to pick up on some of the cues and keys here from MaSa, but always got to be careful about that ace in his sleeve. MaSa is never out of memes to throw at you.
I think Astrea just got to play his A game, get up to those upgrades, get those Twilight Council units going. This is the game to cheese for MaSa, like proxy racks, because the tank push, Astrea is too aware in the mid game for mid game stuff like that to work. The Banshee, like I said, I'm just gonna give him a mulligan on it. It was a good thing that got him that first game, but that's not the type of thing that you get away with twice in a best of 5. Yeah, I don't know. Something weird. MaSa needs to do something really weird. I don't like his odds in a macro game against Astrea. Astrea has wiped the floor with him twice now.
Yeah, I mean, that is where he hits his stride in PvT usually. So here we go. Kings Cove is starting to load on up. Remember that the winner of this is going to face off versus the winner of Vindicta versus Scarlet. And just to remind you guys, Scarlet had pretty heavily favored there. So Scarlet also in the team house, I believe, with Astrea right now. Is probably cheering Astrea on and be like, come on, I can beat you more often than I can beat MaSa.
Yeah.
All right. This is exactly what you were expecting. So Barracks going to be proxied on the other side of the map.
This is the right call. It doesn't need to be like multiple racks, Marine all in. Like, you can get everything you need to do off of just one Barracks that allows you to stunt the Protoss economy, even just a little bit, and keep them on their toes. That's the real goal. So you only need to do one SCV, do like the 1 or 2 Reapers, follow it up with a factory back at home, and just play ball. So yeah. I'm liking that we're seeing this, because it's also going to make Astrea uncomfortable, since he doesn't know whether it's a proxy Reaper or what if it's double proxy Barracks Marauder, right? Like,
yeah, exactly. It's going to look almost exactly the same to him. He's going to send that probe across the map, and it looks like just a direct path scout. He's not going to bother scouting his natural or up on the high ground or anything like he's done in some of the other games. He did scout around before, like around the map before going to his opponent's base. But this time, this is actually going to sell the story really, really well for MaSa that, hey, you better be playing a little bit safe. Don't cut too many corners here, because I'm going to be after you.
Yep. And the probe's going to come in. So there is a difference between this and Acropolis with the Worker Scout in terms of that second gas is a lot faster, since it's not the mineral-focused build this time. But this is a little bit more towards what you'd expect out of like an aggro Terran play. So he is going to put the bunker there.
Yep. And that's going to be extremely annoying for Astrea to deal with. He doesn't even have any pylons right now close to that low ground, which doesn't seem like a big deal. But when you get 1, 2 Reapers into that bunker, even the Stalkers, they actually do take a while to take out that bunker, especially if the SCV starts repairing or something. So it's something you have to kind of get like a shield battery or something up, or like an immortal, to eventually pick it off without losing anything.
Keeping the game low econ is going to be very important. And MaSa, I hope he thinks about this at some point. But when and or if Astrea breaks out of this, I kind of expect to see him play like that double Nexus again. Like, if he can force a similar scenario to Acropolis, where he goes to that big eco greed as the follow-up, maybe MaSa tries to time something out a little bit faster to follow up.
Ooh, okay, Reaper's not actually in the bunker right now. The SCV doesn't seem to be there. It was hanging around by the barracks, and a tech lab gets started in the middle of the map. Okay. Thank you, MaSa. This is what I was dreaming about today.
Build a Ghost Academy somewhere. YOLO.
That would finish the meme right there. Stargate is an interesting choice on one base.
He's going to build a Cyclone, and the Starport is being proxied as well now.
So Stargate is not going to get scouted by the Reaper. There's the Starport that you were talking about.
Yeah, that tech lab's not for the barracks.
Yeah. Okay. So we're probably going to be seeing some more of those Banshees coming out. The funny thing about this is that depending on when MaSa decides to move in with the Banshees, the Stargate is either going to have an Oracle out really quickly, which I think is a little more likely, right? In which case it will be able to reveal the Banshee. But the Banshee, if it doesn't have to deal with like a Phoenix first or something, it's not going to. It does have an opportunity to still get some damage done.
Yeah, very important to be on top of that, because the other thing is you don't want the Oracle to have to waste all of its energy on Revelation either if there's ground units that are attacking. This probe can get inside. He doesn't want to lose the probe, but yeah, he wanted to just kind of park on the natural.
And just making sure there's no natural over here, making sure his opponent's not expanding and getting a bit further ahead. Does MaSa actually know anything about the third base? Has he seen units like heading down? Okay, he did actually scout that out as it was being made, so he knows that is one of the potential locations to harass. And by the way, Banshees can jump over that cliff from the main to the third, so that is going to be prime harassment right there for MaSa.
Yeah, it's good, good pinball effect.
Oh, he got so close to scouting that. That would have been really nice because he could have started a Phoenix immediately.
Yep, this is now that next Oracle is going to be coming out soon, and he's going to actually burn that Oracle energy on these Reapers, possibly. Yeah, so that's bad, because now you just have less Revelations, which is going to become so important.
Well, the second Oracle's close to getting a second Revelation, so he should be okay potentially for the first Banshee.
Just don't put the Banshees too close to each other. That's like the most important thing. As long as you keep some separation, then the Banshees are you're gonna bait out multiple of them, and the game just turns into Oracle energy versus how fast you're basically getting your Banshees into their face. But both Oracles are out on the map.
Oh, okay. He might have to even recall them because otherwise he's gonna lose so many workers. Even before the Banshees came in, MaSa was hitting a head-on workers despite being on one base for so much longer, but with all of this damage
this is like game-ending tier damage still. So he gets the one Revelation.
I think that
he has to bring the other.
Yeah.
There we go. There's the other one. But even then, the two Stalkers, is he going to be able to get away?
Oh my god.
Yes.
He's going to get away. There's a Phoenix coming out, and he has a Revelation on the Banshee, so he should still be able to kill it. But this is so massive right now. Astrea's not mining gas. Astrea's not mining gas right now. Let's put that in perspective.
That's when you send the next Banshee in. Okay, wasn't able to make it.
All right, there's the remainder of the army coming across the map here from MaSa. This is a little bit dangerous because this isn't that many units. They don't have stim or combat shields or anything, so they are a bit more vulnerable. The Cyclone's getting caught first. One already goes down for absolutely nothing, but the Banshee comes back in. Puts Astrea all in position. The one thing I think, yes, MaSa pull back. Okay, yes. I think the one thing that could potentially lose MaSa this game is if he did go for that push, and Astrea actually does have an army. If Astrea just wins the fight really one-sidedly, he could push across the map and equalize a little.
Yeah, I'm waiting for Astrea to cancel everything he's doing and start a third Nexus. But that's what I've been
it's that or pull the boys, right, at this point.
Yeah, but no, you're spot on. The smart play is he's still using the Starport, but leave the rest of his units at home because he has such a huge economy advantage. This game should be unlosable for MaSa. From this position, he should just win.
Hey, guess what? The Oracles just used all their energy to kill 2 workers, so there's nothing back at home to detect the Banshee. It's going to run out of energy soon, and there's a single Stalker here, but ladies and gentlemen,
doesn't matter. Just
24 workers to 40. This is not good for Astrea. This is really, really bad.
I don't know what universe he's able to win this game in. Like, MaSa just got too much damage done. There's a big Protoss army, but it's not like there's Blink. It's not like there's any upgrades. So if you're MaSa, build tanks. He has a wall. And you know what? Honest, like I just throw it on a bunker, right?
Yeah,
You're
I
so
hate
far.
it.
It's not. It doesn't. It's at this point. It's like that's very MaSa. By
This
the way.
is so MaSa. Another tech lab. Nor Banshee's coming. Okay, the Phoenix can lift up one of the siege tanks, but the Marines are actually really spread out right now, which would be great against, like, you know, a bunch of Zealots coming in, buy some time, but that is actually a little bit more problematic versus the Oracles. So
Blink is almost done, so Blink is almost done, so he's going to try and find some purchase over there as he floats the third over.
Uses the Phoenix to lift up a Marine, doesn't even get the kill on that, and that means that the Phoenix a lot lower on hit points and shields right now to lift up a siege tank or something later on. At this point, Astrea, he's still just making more workers. There's Blink finishing up. I think he must acknowledge he's not going to be able to just win the game with his kind of all-in, so doing something like this is really nice. Sniping off Stim, that's big.
Yeah, that's a huge, huge, huge grab right there. That's about as much as Astrea could ask for. Now that he has that.
Would you hit a recall right now? Like blink out bottom left and then recall?
I would not hate a recall right now if you're Dragon. No, I think you're kind of got a good idea. Like a counter attack now from MaSa would be.
There's the recall. Oh, that's actually almost gets away with another one of the Stalkers, but loses at the last second. And now the Stalkers are home to help deal with the Banshee. I don't think the Oracles are, though. Oh, the Oracles are on the other side of the map. And of course, Astrea, during all this, you might be thinking, why doesn't he get an Observer? Astrea doesn't have the economy to get an Observer right now. That's the main problem.
No.
He also thought he already sniped off the starport a long time ago. He was like, all right, I killed off the tech lab, the starport floated away, it's probably somewhere back at home. No, it actually just went a little bit further up into the north and then started making some more Banshees. And still making Banshees, actually.
No, this is. It just gets worse. It really does, because it's still just 2 base versus 3. Dark Shrine is a good YOLO move. The Stalkers did a good job blocking Stim. And I guess MaSa, he's just playing this very carefully. And it's still the right move, because he's still ahead, 20 workers.
Yeah, I do like the Dark Shrine. The other thing I would have actually been maybe okay with, just because it is a kind of what we were talking about in the first game, like, or the second game, I can't remember which, but it's like the Hail Mary High Templars with Storm. If you do have like 4 or 5 Storms available in time for one of those big pushes, if your opponent doesn't push you in time, you actually do have an opportunity to just sort of get really, really amazing engagement and start pulling yourself back in the game.
Storm is definitely one of the best comeback mechanics in StarCraft 2, but at this point, just so much, such a beating coming in.
MaSa's just not giving him any opportunities to rebuild that economy. 6, 7 workers go down, pulls the Banshee away before it runs out of energy, so he can go over to the third base, where he will get taken care of by the Oracles and the Phoenix, but they are far too late to do their job here.
Astrea is fighting his hardest because this would be the final map when he loses, so he'll be eliminated after this, but yeah, that's the, I think in any normal circumstance, though, you probably would have tapped out a while ago.
Yeah, and again, this goes back to how much this actually really does mean for both these guys. Astrea is a guy who is super duper passionate and very confident and kind of really into StarCraft right now. So he's actually, after graduating, he's kind of taking his time before he starts looking for jobs or anything, and it just says, I'm full-time StarCraft right now. That's why he went to Korea. That's why he's playing the GSL qualifiers. He really wants to be able to make this happen, and if he even has a 5 or 10% chance of it, he's going to go for that.
Yeah.
1 DT.
Respect the dedication, respect the commitment, and this is going to be that YOLO in control DT. Perhaps we'll see him warping a few more defensively. He really needs something just silly to work, but
yeah.
Here it comes, A move, and yeah, MaSa did a really good job this series. Yeah, he's way too far ahead from the cheese. The start of that game, I'm not gonna fake hype that to you guys. He did he was so far ahead. It was rough to watch. The Banshees did everything they needed to do. The Oracles were out of position, and they ran out of energy.
Yeah, and to credit Astrea a little bit, with, like, for example, Oracles and stuff being out of position, it's obviously something that goes really, really poorly, as we saw. The Banshees get a ton of damage done. To Astrea's credit, he knew that he was behind. You have to take a risk somewhere and say, okay, I have to either sit back at home and play super defensive and hope that I can get up the macro and, like, shut down the Banshees really hard, or I have to go across the map and try and get some damage done while trying to just defend the Stalkers or something. And his kind of risk, his gamble doesn't really pay off. So
No.
well played by MaSa. He's going to be advancing on to the semifinals, much to, I'm sure, Scarlet's dismay, because the next match is going to be Scarlet versus Vindicta. This is going to be our last quarterfinals match. So we'll see you guys with that Zerg versus Terran in just a little bit. Don't go anywhere.